how did dungeons become a thing in Destiny? Because I feel like everybody loves the dungeon experience.
So that's a really good question.
All right, here we go. The Whisper of the Worm. We got Heated, one of Geek Our Nation's very own, helping us out with this mission, and then the man of the hour, or couple hours, however long this takes, or we dive into this. Vince Viper Zero. Man, I had a chance to meet Vince. This would have been like what, pre-Shadowkeep, I think. When
2019.
Yeah, 2019. Bungie invited us out to do some PvP testing for something I can't say what it was for, but you guys probably know based on what's in the game now what we were out there testing. So had a really
I don't give a shit. I'll say I think it was okay. I think you guys came to play.
All right, well, I guess so. So yeah, we were getting to see some really cool stuff. I
was there.
Play tested and played a lot with Vince. I think we got dinner, drink. I mean, we had I had the whole Bungie experience, and Vince was a big part of that. So we've had a friendship ever since.
Yeah, it was me and
Josh.
I think Josh.
Yep.
Yeah, anime figurines.
Yep.
He streams too. He's not super consistent with when he streams, and he tends to stream late at night. I think he is actually going to stream tonight. It's pretty chill. I like hanging out with him. He's a good homie. So
yep, awesome dude.
Yeah, it's later tonight, like much later tonight.
Okay,
he
so
usually streams from like 8 to like 2 a.m. or something. Oh, I love this guy right here.
I wanted to just ask you real quick, because you're shooting, you know, to most Destiny fans, they know how to quickly get through this route, right? But at one time, all of this was a total secret. What was the day like when the Whisper got discovered, and how many weeks did it take of it being in the game before the community finally found it?
So Whisper was found on day 1, but we expect it to happen. So everybody missed, I think, the first 3 times it was available, because I was on IO, and the way public events are triggered is like global flags. So everybody in the game everywhere experiences the same public event, regardless of which server instance you're on. So I was just sitting there and I was like, oh, Taken Blight. Did anyone do it on this one? No. And then I was like scanning Reddit, looking at Twitch, all this stuff. Finally, I saw a post pop up on Reddit probably about like 11 a.m. And by the way, the whole studio was like on pins and needles at this point. Everyone was just staring at the internet like, did they find it? and to
give people a visual, you guys have a even in the break room, and now granted Bungie's gone over a bunch of renovations since then, but in the break room or the lunch room, there's monitors, several of them, and they all have different Twitch streams going up, and it could be pretty easy to probably lock in and be on pins and needles, biting your nails, waiting to see what's going on, because they have all of the streamers essentially on display.
Yeah, and I had like a ton of stuff pulled up at my desk. I was actually over in a different building. What's up, Kills? Yeah, exactly. Cabal Again. So that happened, you know, that was that weekend. But so the first day, I want to say like the first couple instances of the Whisper being possible for people to go into, no one really noticed. There was a dude, sorry, I went forward and hit the VO trigger. There was a dude who posted on Reddit, and the guy posted on Reddit, and he's like, hey, I don't know if anyone's noticed this, but I saw this weird thing on IO. And the top 5 replies were, it's nothing, you're a fucking idiot, shut up, Joel. And I was just like, holy shit, this guy actually found it. And then like,
but is he gonna get flamed away from figuring it out?
Sure enough, no, several people started posting like, no, you guys shut up, this guy's onto something, there's something here. And then it just started going from there. And I feel like the first people to complete the Whisper weren't even like streamers. It was like fucking Squid Boy 38 and like Luigi, Waluigi, 14 or something like that. And like these guys were the first ones to ever beat it. It was really cool.
Okay, so what was that moment like? I just like, I see a bunch of nerds just like standing up and cheering. Like, was it as raucous in the studio when somebody finally finished the mission? And what was that feeling like?
So, God, this was interesting. It wasn't like we had a huge group of people kind of like stacked up, you know, all watching together. Like I was at my desk. Rob was there with me because we were in the same building at the time. So we were just kind of hanging out together. But as like things started to blow up, then like my IMs started going crazy. People in the studio that I'd never talked to were like, "Holy shit, dude, how are you feeling? Like, what's going on?" And I'm like, "This is wild, man." And then like later in the day, like Luke came over to my desk and he, you know, shook my hand and he's like, "This is amazing. You did really fucking awesome work." And then Pete came over and shook my hand, and like it was really fun. It was a really, really cool and awesome day. So yeah, it was very, very exciting. Really, really fun time. In my chat, Kills in the Night came through and said Cabal Again. I've said it before on my stream, but I was there with everybody. Like I went home just like you guys, and I played at home that first weekend. So I was there on IO saying, you know, watching the Cabal Again for like 6 hours. And it was tough. I was like, why isn't this working? I was terrified. I was like, did I fuck this up? Like, is it bugged? Like, what's going on? And it wasn't my fault. I didn't do anything. It was just a problem with the public event scheduler in the game at the time.
Oh, wow.
And because of the Whisper, we found out that of course, the statistical possibility of the Whisper not playing for 6 hours, or like, you know, having no Taken Blight event for 6 hours, was like once in 11 years. To have it go for like 6 hours straight, it's crazy.
Wow.
So it was just a statistical mistake. Like we were using true RNG, and since then, you know, the code that got written made it so that it was more balanced, and it wasn't true RNG. It was like a weighted percentage. So like if you got, you know, too many Cabal drills, then you would get Taken Infection, like would go up in priority, and so it's just more likely to be Taken Infection after that. But that worked across all public events in all public bubbles. Yeah. Oh shit, Mac didn't make it.
Yeah, I'm failing the jump parts of this mission. And
the ceiling stabber, bro, did it get you?
This is crazy because every time I fall off the map or don't, you know, get through a section, Vince can just like actually make fun of me and laugh.
No, you're good, bro. This shit's hard. I've literally done this thing thousands of times. So, like, you guys watch me just sail through if you're on my stream. I was just boinging away talking.
Okay, I thought I had to go over the ball. I'm overthinking it.
No, you got to crouch under. Crouch under is easy. Oh, so one of the things we did in the traversal section, and I think Rob has talked about it a little bit, the collision on the Geo is actually better than it looks. Huh. We just wanted you to feel like it's not good.
And why was that?
Because it's scary. It makes you feel like, I'll show you a really good example. When we get through here, there's like a curved wall before you do the really long diving board jump. That curved wall has a collision that extends probably like 3 or 4 feet off. It's perfectly big enough to hold your player pill, but the way it looks to you is that it fades into this like really thin ledge that you can't stand on. It's just not true. So you can actually stand on it.
That's something I noticed about 2 of the missions you worked on. This and I believe it was 0 Hour. They both have like this like horror film, psycho thriller kind of feel to it. Was horror movies an inspiration for you guys? Like, what helped create and establish that overarching tone of the Whisper?
So what's really interesting about the Whisper is that was like kind of the summer of Stranger Things, when Stranger Things was really popular, and so we were really into like, you know, 80s stuff at the time. Rob and I, you know, Rob's Gen X. I'm millennial, so I grew up, you know, very young age in the 80s. So we were just like really into the vibes. One of the things that we talked about to establish the aesthetic was like we did this, we talked about this at GCX a little bit, but the color palettes that we chose, the contrast between cyan and red, all came from like these pictures of cars that like Rob and I really liked. They were just photoshopped like pictures of Porsches with like really crazy bumpers and like big exhausts and all this other stuff, but they used this like vaporwave, you know, retro aesthetic that we were really into. So the look and the feel that we went for was really just kind of a symptom of all those things. The Whisper definitely being more spooky because we were watching Stranger Things at the time. It was also the summer of wildfires in Canada and Oregon that just like smoked out Seattle entirely.
I remember that, yeah.
I want to say we had a solar eclipse up there too that hit like Bend, Oregon in totality. So it was just a really weird time. And this was like, the Whisper was our vibes for like the, you know, that
Capture
era,
the
I
moment.
guess. Yeah, exactly.
What was Fox Jr. asks, how nervous were you guys to see how the community was going to react to a challenging mission that was on a timer?
Oh, very much so, dude. I was really, really scared. I was just like, I don't know that anyone's even gonna like this. Is it gonna be too hard? Are they gonna get lost? Are they gonna be frustrated? I was so scared because everything I made to this point was like open world quest content. So I literally made, you know, quests in the game. I made adventures. I made, you know, public events, stuff like that. So moving over to something like this was pretty crazy, but it was always what I wanted to do. So just being able to like get that room to breathe, spread my wings, like really just take big risks and get wild was awesome. It was really, really fun, and it made me really happy.
And at the time, who were the developers that were working on the Whisper mission, and what was your specific role, and where exactly do I go from here? Right here.
It's the furthest one on the right, top right.
Here,
I
I'll
went bottom right. Whoops. This mission gets
It's all
me years
good, bro.
later.
Don't worry,
It's
dude.
all
It happened
good.
with me as well. I thought it was the bottom right.
So do you want me to go down there, Kills? I'll go down there. So the to answer your question, oh, what? They put a kill volume in there? Well, that's some shit. I don't like that. That's annoying.
The right one.
The answer to your question, Kills. Hey, what's up, Asefa?
That's so cool. Wow.
Oh, I guess it wasn't Kill's question, right? It was Hunter's question about what my role was and all that. So I was the feature lead. I was the only designer that was really on the Whisper, and I worked with two artists. I worked with Rob and Alex.
Three-person team?
Yeah, we
No
had support
way.
from other teams, but this was basically a 3-person team.
Wow. That's incredible.
We just went hard, dude.
If you said 300 were working on the dungeons, I would have been like, yeah, probably it makes sense because the dungeons became such a big part of Destiny, and it sounds like you two were were you guys at the very beginning? How did dungeons become a thing in Destiny?
Yeah.
Because I feel like everybody loves the dungeon experience. It really seems to me like a great mix of the PvE and PvP community. They can like reach out and shake hands at the dungeon in the middle, right? Like everybody loves the dungeons. So how did that even become a thing in Destiny?
So that's a really good question. We made this first, and we kind of did it a little bit in isolation on purpose. We wanted to, you know, our big bet was, you know, kind of a pitch statement that Rob made, which was like Destiny has big secrets, right? And D2 didn't. And I don't think that's a shock to anybody. D2 at the time was just like really, really obvious, straightforward. Do you want to go to the next spot,
Yeah.
Hunter? Or do you want to keep like looking around in here?
Yeah, sorry. It's kind of crazy that.
Yeah, explore. We can hop in again. It doesn't matter.
You said this was sort of like a dungeon in a bubble in a way, I guess, because it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was a secret exotic mission. It was never described as a dungeon, but this was y'all's beta of what dungeons would ultimately become. Is that safe to say with where you're heading?
Yeah, sort of. So, like, the weird irony was because, you know, Bungie's such a big studio, we didn't have total visibility for what was going on. Yeah, I tried to drop in there Kills, and it wasn't letting me. So, I don't know. It seems like the farm is gone, but I don't know.
No, it's still here. It's just I think you're dropping too far.
Okay, yeah, I was dropping all the way down the middle. All right. So, at the time when this was coming out, and we were working on this, we held a play test. We had, you know, the designer who made Shattered Throne, which is a very different kind of dungeon, you know, came in and like, we didn't know that we were working on things that were somewhat similar. It turns out they were really, really different, and I like that. I think it's great. So if you have, like, we just had this moment of synergy where like some members of the team were working on content for Forsaken that was Shattered Throne, and it was a big dungeon, right? And then we had others of the team, us, working on this, and it was a very different kind of experience, but it was a dungeon as well. So they kind of just, it was just like a really happy accident. Like we were all just kind of thinking the same way. Oh, real quick, I want to answer that question for Tony. Yeah, the hot pink thing is actually a debug placeholder icon. If you see an icon that's hot pink, that is a missing material. So art did not get hooked up correctly to that. For Yeah, I'll let you know something real quick, Hunter. I wanted to see if I still had it, and so I hopped in this last night after I got 1810 and soloed this shit first try.
Nice. That's awesome. That is so good.
Yeah,
Father's
so
return.
I'm working on my new Whisper catalyst already.
Yeah.
So that was the comment. Is like as I was killing those shadow thralls, I was getting like a little pink thing that was popping up, and the pink thing was saying, take an essence and shit like that. But it was just like a debug thing. I rambled a little bit. Get me back on track. What were you specifically asking me?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, how the process of bringing dungeons to the game.
That's
and
right. Okay.
And you guys didn't even necessarily say, oh, we're going to make dungeons a thing. It wasn't even until much later, I feel like, even in D2 where dungeons got dropped. But this essentially was the first dungeon.
Yeah, it was the Whisper, then it was Shattered Throne, then we made 0 Hour, and what was the follow-up? Heresy, thank you. Yeah. So those were the next ones. So it was basically that. Like, I got the chance to. I want to touch back on the thing where you were asking about roles and responsibilities and all that and team size.
Yeah, because that was intriguing.
We
3 people made this mission, right?
The reason why is because of all the careful decisions we made about where we were putting it, what the palette is, meaning like these are Vex blocks.
Yeah.
Vex blocks are really simple geometry. They already exist. We didn't need to make any bespoke assets for this. So we really just knew what we had in the toolkit, and we did our best to just really push the limits of what we could do with things while giving ourselves the space to like make some really abstract and wacky environment stuff with really simple pieces of art. So
wow.
When I was early on talking with Rob about like where we go and like what we're doing and all that, I was like, well, we should go on IO. We should make it about Taken. And like we were talking about that, and he's like, well, can I use Vex blocks? And I was like, yeah, of course. I was like, IO's got Vex and Taken, so like we'll be good to go there. And I wanted Taken because of like lore implications, and I was just really into all of that bit with the 1,000 wings and like Zol whispering to you and all this other shit. So I'm trying to gloss over it a little bit so that we can ask more questions. But yeah. That was kind of how we were able to make this one with a smaller team. 0 Hour had a bigger team because we needed to make brand new stuff. The back side of the tower that you fall through in 0 Hour after you come off the top,
right?
That entire thing did not exist.
Oh,
it wasn't there. So 9 Hydras, Eve, on Twitter, 9 Hydras is their handle. Eve was the artist who built all of that. And they were super, super fucking cool, really, really energetic, and like super good person, or like super crazy artist, like very talented. They ended up building and fleshing out the tower space originally, I think, in D1, or they were just really familiar with the palette.
Yeah.
So I was working with Alex again, who I built combat of the Whisper, so not the traversal section. Rob did this traversal section of the Whisper, but I worked with Alex again on 0 Hour as well. So it was Alex and Eve were both the artists that I was using or working with. Josh was my test lead. I had a bigger test team. I had a couple of investment designers who helped me set up all like the secrets and the quests and shit like that. So yeah, it was cool.
That's incredible. Yeah, to think that this mission was made by so few people is crazy. But yeah, then you mentioned how, a lot of this was already in the game. I guess that expedited the process. How long did it ultimately take to complete this mission from start to finish?
I don't remember. I want to say it was somewhere between 4 and 6 months, something like that.
Wow.
So we didn't even take that long to build it.
That's quick, all things considered.
Yeah. And I think a part of the reason was like, as Rob was developing, and designing and like working on this traversal section, Alex was working on the combat section, and I was working with both of them. So I could give design feedback and direction to Rob on traversal. And then while he was like working on that and building a new space, like the green room, I could then go work with Alex on combat, because I had to script every single one of those combatants. I had to script all those bubbles. I had to script the boss encounter. So like I built all of that combat, just me. I did get help with investment design. An investment is like when you pick up the catalyst, and like what a catalyst is. That was a very complicated process to set up. and just like getting all that going. So I needed help with that. That was basically, I had to ask a favor from, you know, someone who I knew and worked with. And I was like, hey, how do I do this? So it wasn't necessarily officially sanctioned work. It was more like, hey, I gotta like not, you know, ask permission, but ask forgiveness and be like, I really need some help like building this out. So there was a little bit of that going on with Whisper. Those resources changed for 0 Hour, but like, yeah, we got by through a lot of favors and like, you know, goodwill from other team members to really, you know, put this thing together and get it out to you guys.
I think the best gaming experiences usually have, right, where you ask for forgiveness, not permission, because it sounds like you guys just had a really good gut instinct of what you wanted to do, and it sounds like the time and the era that you were in kind of helped, you know, guide everything and just solidify all of the vibes you feel. I think the Stranger Things reference is actually crazy, and it reminds me how just much of a takeover Stranger Things had back at that time as well. It's still big, you know, obviously today, but man, that time period, that's all anybody was talking about.
This is the ledge. Look at my feet.
So you're off. Yep, you're technically off.
But it's safe, dude.
Okay, so and that's to give you to give fear because you look over the ledge and you see the dark below. Yeah.
You're like, oh shit, I can't do that.
All psychological.
It's totally safe.
So you're right. Yeah,
It's
the first time you're doing
safe.
this, especially if you're blind, you're like, I don't know if I get it. I see it.
Everyone jumps right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they don't trust it, but you don't have to. You can just walk and make it.
Crazy.
So it's
Ooh, see that? Ooh, oh. I mean,
yeah, you can find the edge. It's there.
Yeah, there is an edge. Yep, there it is. Wow, that's
very
wild.
finely tuned.
That's incredible.
Oh, what's up? Swap on Twitch.
How long did it take for the test team to find the shortcut in Green Room?
Okay, so they knew about it immediately. So again, dude, I think I only had 2 testers on this. I was trying to think about it. Like 0 Hour had a lot more of a robust test team. We had like full test support, but we just didn't have the resources over on the live team when we were making this. So I want to say I only had 2 testers. There was a third one, but he was more of a like a UI UX tester. So he wasn't as good at the game. And I'm not trying to like throw shade. It's just, that's just the way it works.
Right.
The dude was like pretty overwhelmed in here and he's like, I don't know what the fuck to do. So like the other 2 guys were hard carrying him the whole time. And, you know, mostly what they were looking for were like performance or like, you know, bugs and stuff like that. So like, is the activity functioning correctly? It wasn't necessarily like encounter or design feedback that I got just because there wasn't any time for that. There were no resources like that I could, you know, look to or count on or like, you know what I mean? So
from a developer's perspective, was that by design? You guys wanted to, you know, because that's kind of how Destiny works in a vacuum, right? 2 Sherpas, 2 competent players, and then maybe 1 who's getting, you know, helped along the way. Was that strategical, or was that it just happened that way?
It does happen that way. And for what it's worth, like being the designer, I played the shit out of this, and that's not necessarily like a commonplace occurrence, right? Like sometimes you got to make so many different things. I was just really fortunate that I could be in a position where this was the only thing I was working on at the time. I could really just put all of my focus into it and just make something really, really cool. So I was really, and I was talking to Fox a little bit about this last night. Fox is one of Mikowski's community members. Fox was asking me, he was like, you know, how did you like judge difficulty and like how did you figure that out? And I was like, oh bro, I was just like, can I do this solo? Yeah, cool, that's probably fine. If I can do it solo, then a fire team should be okay, right? Granted, some people have accused me of that not necessarily being super fair because like I'm not the average Destiny player apparently, and I'm not just trying to like, you know, have ego or like gas myself up or anything.
You know what you're doing.
Trying to be humble and be like, I'm a normal guy, but you know, it's
man,
I don't know, it's been fine to me. It was great.
All of these set pieces are so incredible. Just, I mean, I feel like anytime you feel inclined to pull out your ghost and just kind of take a look around, it means it's a beautiful set.
Yeah, so I want to talk about combat real quick a little bit. I know you didn't ask this question, but
sure.
I've been asked it before, and I thought this was a really neat piece of information. So we started with, and this is just a part of like how we were able to do so much in so little time.
Right.
So I was telling you, I worked with Alex and I worked with Rob, right? So Alex is working on combat, and he's like, where do we start? And I was like, dude, let's don't do anything super crazy and build a bespoke space. let's do this. Let's really pay tribute to the Spindle, and let's take the Spindle strike combat. So where the Spindle starts,
Wow, yeah.
and just flip everything 90 degrees on its axis. So if there was, or 180. So if there was a left-hand turn, that's now a right-hand turn. So this room that we're in is actually the huge garage area that was in the Spindle mission with the spider tank in it. It's this room.
That's incredible.
So
just flip 90 degrees.
It all out, and then just use Vex blocks and like fill the space in. So that was another way we saved time.
Wow, that's crazy. You want to talk about like some... Wow.
Bro, I'm looking at this room in new light. Goddamn.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's insane. And you would never have gotten that feeling, right? Because I feel like players are pretty quick to know, like, oh, this has been reused or reskinned, but no one ever got that feeling playing this mission. And finding out now about it, it actually reused a lot of assets, but it never felt like a reskin. So talk to me about how that was accomplished, because that seems like a psychological
good
achievement,
bro. Like, I don't know. We got real lucky. I just have to say that. Like, it wasn't. I was just like, I just tried every step of the way. You know, every time we hit a problem, I'd be like, ah, shit. Okay, well, let's do this instead. You know, because Alex brought it up to me. He was like, dude, are you worried like this might be too recognizable? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, what if I just flip it? And I was like, that's a great idea. Let's just flip it 180 on its axis. And he's like, okay. And I was like, I think it'll be okay because we're using Vex blocks anyway, so it'll just look different and players aren't gonna know. Yeah. So like, it'll be solid. And it turns out that was all. It was right.
Yeah. That was that took a lot of foresight from you and the team, because this feels like one of the most exciting at the time, fresh, fun, unique experiences anyone had ever had in the game.
Oh shit!
And a lot of that was the discovery element.
We're fighting all three boys at once.
Bro, we're going back to the old days.
They dropped hard mode on us. That's fine.
Okay, so I want to comment on that. I was disappointed when I played this solo last night that it doesn't force you to fight all three. You can really, really take your time and fight one at a time and just pick through this. So solo on the normal mode, which is what we're playing, really isn't that hard. But on the upside, a lot more people get to enjoy this content.
True.
You know? It's much easier, and you still get your Whisper of the Worm, which is an amazing sniper rifle. So, you know, it makes me a little sad because I don't think it's, you know, in the spirit of the mission, because this mission is meant to be for the ultra hardcore. Did an interview with Datto and Holtzman. You guys might know of them if you're into Destiny.
Yeah, with Datto and Holtzman, they're all right.
He must be a small guy. Never heard of him.
Yeah. So I did an interview with Datto and Holtzman, and they were asking me questions about that too. Like, so yeah, it's we said the same thing. So I was like, this is, you know, this was a love letter. Like, I made this because I wanted to make something that I thought would be really cool in my favorite game, and I wanted to make it for players like me. And so this mission really was for me just a love letter to Destiny fans. And that, so if you guys want to watch that video, that's up on YouTube too. I think it's on Holtzman's channel.
Yeah, we'll link that in our video because that sounds like great context.
Yeah, it's called like The Whisper in 0 Hour, a love letter or something like that, or like Destiny, a love letter or something like that. So yeah, a bit rambly with my answer there, but yeah, that's really how this got made and like why we made it.
No, I love that, because I think at the time, and you'll have a better perspective than anybody, but I think at the time, Destiny viewed that difficult PvE experience as endgame, maybe even only exclusive to raid content, right? Like if you wanted that level of hardcore, you had to get 6 buddies and go to a raid. This, from what I recall, was the first time you could do something in PvE that wasn't a raid, that was almost just as engaging as it and difficult. That sounds like it was part of the initial design process and philosophy.
Yes, absolutely it was. Sorry, I was locked in for a second.
Did you have any pushback? Was it like, you know, oh man, hey, this man, maybe we build this into as a raid, you know, as part of a raid, because it's really tough, right? Was there ever any pushback in that regard, or?
Yes, and that's why I was saying, you know, for me, I really gambled on my instincts, and I was like, no, this is soloable, this is doable, and like that was always kind of like where I put it, and I was like, ask the hardcores, you know, who are at the studio, is this too hard? And all the hardcores would be like, no. And then other people would be like, yeah, but you need to be able to let everyone play it. And I go, why? That was kind of my response, like, why? And they go, well, that's, Destiny's game for everybody. And I was like, yeah, but this content isn't for everybody. What's stuff that is like only for the hardcore players who like really, really love this game, super invested, and they're looking for challenges and a way to like best themselves and like, a mission that they can spend like 3 weeks in, right? Like all of that is here. And I was like, there's nothing else like that here. And it took a little bit of time, but people eventually like came on board and understood it. There was a bit of concern and frustration among some of the team members who just simply were not good enough at the game to complete this, that really wanted to do it. And those were mostly the people I heard from. And so my answer always was, if you want to do this, hit me up, I'll carry you. And they were like, funny. And I was like, no, seriously, I will carry you. And they're like, dude, you can do this solo? And I was like, yes. That's what I do in my spare time. Like I did it all week with randoms. Like I literally just waited on IO and I'd be like, hey, you want to run? And I would like do a run with people and I'd be like, sick, good job. And they're like, oh, thanks, man, you're amazing. And I'd be like, you want to know a secret? I made this. And like,
so you'd wait till the end to drop that?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of randoms out there who got their whisper carried by the guy who designed it.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Like I can appreciate that, right? Because I think over the years we've been known to help a couple Guardians through PvP experiences, Trials especially. But I didn't develop Trials, right? Like I didn't go in and create it. I can imagine having done that and also help people complete it. But I don't know, man. It just feels. I feel like the passion that you had for this experience and for Destiny is just. I can feel it hearing you talk about it, and it sounds like to me like at that time you were putting a lot of commitment into this mission. Even after it came out, you were continuing to play it. I just feel like if that was the case, then this must have been truly something that you love.
Absolutely. Yeah, this was a really, really important thing to me. I felt like this was, a lot of times, especially in like a creative endeavor, if you're on a team, as an individual contributor, you don't necessarily get a moment to just kind of make what you want to make that like makes you happy, and that's kind of like your dream thing. And this was just a chance for me, so I was like, fuck it. I may never get this chance again. I'm going to send it. I'm going to go as hard as I can, make the thing that makes me the happiest, and just really have a good time.
So I was actually wondering, the names of the original 3 bosses, those are returning Destiny 1 bosses. The iconic Valistark. I think Drevis was one of the House of Wolves.
Yes. Yep. It was the Wolf Baron Queen. Yep.
Wasn't the Knight the Flame Prince from Prison of Elders or something like that?
Urzok the Hated was the dude that would show up in the Cosmodrome and just yeet your shit off to the moon.
Huh.
He was like on the hill near the loot cave. That's who Urzok was.
Okay.
He was just like a super strong public event knight.
Was there a reason behind those choices, or you like those guys, or just anything in particular? Like, why those 3?
For like some headcanon a little bit. And my headcanon was like, who are some of these like really iconic, to use a cliche phrase at this point, but who are these like really recognizable and knowable, like deep lore characters where I don't have to ask a writer to come up with a new name, a new backstory, or all of that. And I talked with, the writing lead over on the team, and I was like, hey, what about these names? I took them from here, these moments from D1, and I was like, I guess the headcanon I'm going for is like, Zol took some of the more powerful, enemies that we had no like finality with necessarily. I mean, you kill Valistark in the strike, right? You kill the Barons in the strike, right? But it was more about like, you don't kill those guys once, you kill them 100 times, you kill them 1,000 times. They always spawn over and over again. So my thought process was that Zol, the Whisper, when you're in there, is Zol's like pocket dimension, because worm gods can never die. So the essence was hidden away. Like there's, if you think of like the locus of power that is the essence of a god, that's what this pocket dimension was. And the Taken were moving in and out of the pocket dimension on Io and feeding their light. So please bear in mind, this is my canon. This is not official canon, but this is what I thought of and what I pitched to the story team and all that. So the Taken are just feeding the light and the, you know, the cradle on Io where the Traveler landed. They're feeding all this light to the Worm God to make it more powerful. That manifested as these 3 different Taken bosses who kind of become like one entity, and they start, you know, foraying out into the space of Lost Oasis, and that's why they show up in the Taken Infection event. They pop through and they materialize in the physical form out in that area, and then you kill them and you can go into the Whisper, into the pocket dimension. Really, that was Zul's ultimate goal, was to tempt anyone. And he had Taken, he could have, you know, I always thought, like, what was the greatest expression of a Worm God's power in the hands of the Hive, right? Well, Crota's would be a giant sword. The Hive all function on sword logic. So for me, I was like, what would that be if a Guardian were to find the Worm God and bargain with the Worm God for that power? It's a sniper rifle. Yeah. What's the best sniper rifle ever in Destiny? Black Spindle. So that's how all that connected in my head. And that's
a lot of that is true, actually, for the lore. Like the lore tab on the Whisper had most of that just being accurate. And
yeah, so that I did actually like work directly on the lore tab with you know, with the writers and with the people who wrote that. I had several different options. There was a whole, you know, one option was like written up as like Ulan Tan, and like this mix between the light and the dark. And the one that shipped with Thousand Wings and on the Whisper itself was just kind of like the edgiest one, where like, yeah, I'm a big edge lord on the inside. You know, I'm goth. Black fingernail paint and stuff like that back in high school and whatever. But yeah, so I was just like, yeah, I love this. This Worm God's so dark and tortured, bro. He's gonna give me a sniper rifle and be like, tell me about teeth that are sharper than my own. Let's go. So yeah, I was all about it, and that's how I went with that.
Cool.
Hell yes. Well, Whisper's always been one of my favorite snipes. We've been using it recently in PvP again, just to celebrate the return of this mission. But now I got the real deal. I got the craftable one, which very enticing, very exciting. When it came to the Whisper of itself, granted it was the Black Spindle from D1. Outside of the lore tab, did you have any involvement in, you know, attributes or scope? Right, like there's so many things that go into how a sniper feels and operates.
Yeah, so there were a lot of requests that I made of the Sandbox team, specifically like Nusk and Hamrick, and I was like, you know, and some Destiny old heads probably remember them. They've been on many streams. John Wisniewski and Josh Hamrick. So I directly worked with them, and I was like, I would like this. I think it should do this. You know, we talked over perks and all those other things and like went through in detail. So ultimately it was their decision. If anything, we had more input on what it should look like. And for that, like, you know, Rob and I went and talked directly with the hard surface artist that modeled it. We gave him a lot of concepts. I personally feel like they fucking murdered it. They made it so good.
It was sick, dude. Like, I'm just going through all the ornaments, like, and it just looks, dude, the best.
Yeah, the first time I saw it, I was just like, Jesus Christ, are you serious? Like the artist who made it, I think her name was Chelsea. I was just like, Chelsea, what? This is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I'm so glad you like it. I'm like, nah, dude, seriously, this is so good.
Even just from like a color palette and design perspective, this just default ornament, don't even gotta put anything special on it. It's like darker than like the soul of the universe or something. Like that's not black. That's not the color. That's not even like super shader black, right? With the shader we have returning in Destiny. There's just something about this.
Void. Yeah, it's
the
like
void.
Yes, it's not the color.
It's a nothingness. Exactly. There is no color I'm looking at. It's truly looking into the void, which is part of the lore too, right? So, I mean, my God, just like from a design, combat, scripting, the lore in the middle, like it really, I don't know, man. I think it's one of the reasons it's such a favorite and beloved mission is because it feels like this is the first time in D2 that everything all came together. Because remember, the launch was a little scary. We had everything reset, right? We were powerless, lightless.
Yep.
I mean, were you what was some of your recollection of the beginning of Destiny 2 and how the Whisper was almost like a catalyst, no pun intended, towards making it into the game that, you know, people know and love today?
I don't think you're wrong. I mean, I also worked on Curse of Osiris, you know, the most maligned expansion pack of the whole game, right?
Yeah.
So I got to see like all the ups and downs. And it was really nice to be part of something that was a big up and a big positive point. We there were a lot of gambles made about making D2 more approachable for players than D1. A lot of those gambles paid off, but retention was really bad. So we had to put more emphasis on like D1ifying D2, right? So we had to reverse a bunch of decisions, but that's kind of where it came from. As an activity designer, I was really, really, really far away from that stuff. I was just a guy who made stuff. So like those types of decisions were much more high level. That's like director level, senior lead level, like studio leadership level would make those kinds of decisions, or like project leadership level, right? Like, so convincing them and like just really trying hard, like to say like, hey, we think these things are important. That was kind of the big challenge for me as an individual contributor on the project. So like, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. I mean,
it does. It points to how much trust it sounds like. Yeah, in a studio that was, hundreds of people deep, it sounds like the trust you need to have in each other is, my God, more than even like a NBA or NFL professional sports organization, right? Like and to have everything all come together, it's a miracle that a game ever even gets shipped out, because it just sounds like there's so much to it. But yeah, I'll throw you a little bit easier question. D2 favorite Whisper of the Worm ornament. Default is, with how great it looks, is also included in that as well.
Well, I just want to say, for anyone who is watching the Fractal Grove stream, that's my favorite ornament right there. Because I have a Whisper model that my best friend who I grew up with printed of the bone. Here, I'll put it up on my stream. Yeah. It's the what is the fucking thing called? The ornament.
I think yours is nice. That's right. Between breaths. That's right. I remember you commented on a Whisper clip. You said, "Oh, you're using my favorite ornament." It's also mine as well. Why is it your favorite though?
I just think it looks really neat. I like that one. Yeah, and I'm not going to hold it up because last time I did that, we got our like live feed on YouTube just got cut immediately.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, bro, this shit ain't real. I was like, sitting there going, like, this is not real.
Wait,
and
I always saw the Whisper model at PAX and all these other conventions. You have that now? You've got one of the Whisper models? Is that what's behind you?
Yeah. So this was made by a friend of mine. This wasn't actually made by so it's really, really fragile. And we're in spring now, and I opened that window to my office, like let some air in, and I like ripped the bottom jaw off of it. So now I have to like put it back on. But yeah, no, it's pretty sick. And I won't pick it up and show you guys because I can't apparently. Otherwise, YouTube thinks I'm trying to instruct people on like firearms usage and
how to build your own Whisper of the Worm in real life.
I'm like, bro, this shit is plastic and it's like it's ridiculous. Calm down. So yeah, this is my favorite ornament. But I really, really like the default skin a lot. So it's like kind of hard for me to pick. And then I just noticed that, I don't know if you know this, there's appears to be 2 new skins.
Yes.
There's Roar of the Worm and Gilded Cage. So Gold Worm and I guess like a real thick barnacle hive one, which I don't care for that. I like the gold worm though. That looks cool.
The gold worm is really interesting. It almost seems to be it's in line with what I think of when I think of the Whisper's aesthetic, but it has this almost like regal, clean sort of feel to it. Which I think of the Whisper, I think of almost like a Taken type of weapon. But this goes the other direction, but still feels innate to the Whisper. So yeah, this was a new one available in Destiny 2, and yeah, it looks like if you were the king or queen of the Whisper of the Worm, this would be what you'd be handed or something. It looks regal.
Totally.
That's the best word to put it.
Ornate while still
it's
keeping
opulent.
the original thing.
Very opulent.
I was wondering actually, you have Whisper in your hands, right? Like in the game.
Mm-hmm.
When you look down, what is that in the scope?
The like reflection there.
Yeah,
it's just a reflection.
So it's nothing in like particular.
Yeah. So here, I want to caveat it with this: it is whatever you think it is probably the right answer.
Wait, what are you saying? You look down with the Whisper?
That's the most important part.
Well, you just look into the scope without actually scoping in. And
yeah, it has like a blue, like
a little bit
sheen on it.
Yeah, it kind of looks. I feel like I'm in a room.
Yeah, it looked a bit like a box.
Yeah, it looks like I'm in a boxed room.
I would not read into it too much. It's but you can if you want to. Like that's
yeah,
totally
I'm not
fun.
stopping you.
The real quick kills in the night. Yeah, the Louis Vuitton ornament is definitely dope. The bound hammer ornament. Yeah, I think, especially as like a creative, you know, there's a lot of people when you make art and you share that with people and they really like it, they tend to attach personal meaning to it. And I think that personal meaning is always more valid than any creative vision that I necessarily had. So it's better to just hold on to what you believe in your heart the thing is. And don't even argue with people about it. It doesn't matter. Like, that's the whole point of art. None of this shit's real anyway.
Yeah.
So like,
it's all left up for interpretation. Yeah. So if you think if you think that the symbolism here is that, you know, by using the whisper, it might be a great weapon to utilize, but now your mind is trapped in a claustrophobic room. You know, if that's what you think it is, then, you know, screw it, run with it. Unless you get, you know, told otherwise that it's, you know, canon or not. I think at that point it does leave it up to interpretation.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that theory a ton. So if that was the theory, was like you're seeing your own reflection and you're trapped in like your own mind, absolutely, that's sick. Like, let's say that's it. That's official canon now. Why not?
We're just making up lore here. This is great.
Dude, I love it. No, that's great. That's a really cool way to think.
All right, new lore. Okay, so I get a dual wielding flamethrower. Okay, cool.
Sick. Okay, so for those of you who are watching along, you know, who aren't familiar with what Fractal Grove is or any of that, we're working on VR titles right now, mixed reality type stuff. We've got 3 things that we're building. We're, you know, looking for funding. It's a very, very hard time to start a studio. It's really, really difficult. So started at the beginning of the quarter with a new strategy, just saying, hey, let's try to crowdsource this and not have it be like a Patreon or, you know, a Kickstarter, right? So what our stream is mostly about is this is an open door to the 2 founders of the studio. We're here 4 hours a week. We stream on 2 days, 2 hours each day. It's an open door. Talk to us about whatever we're making. If you don't want to have that conversation, you're like, well, I also work in Unreal and I want to make stuff, but you guys are, you know, experienced developers. How do I do this thing that I'm trying to figure out? That is also welcome. Instead of just being like, here, chuck some money into this bucket and then we'll go make something and tell you about it in 5 years. We're committing to being here with you guys. We want the community to be a part of the studio as well. Tremendous support from the people who've been coming through stream already, and you guys are super awesome.
What's something that about the Whisper of the Worm mission, because it's been years now, but something that you've seen that's been missed? You might have like a little smile and grin, like, oh wow, they still haven't figured this out after all these years, or have we discovered everything there is to know about the Whisper?
I get that question, and I totally understand where it comes from. And I, as a player, like deeply want to know the answer, but I have to say, I really do. It's more fun if I never answer that, because it's just more interesting to like imagine things and like think about it and be like, oh, what is this? What is that? So I personally will never answer questions about anything that is like a secret or intended to be a secret. And, you know, I'm never going to be like really clear on it. I think it's best if people just always assume that there's something that they missed and they just keep enjoying a thing until they're done enjoying it and then move on, you know, to something else. This is all elective use of your time. None of this is necessary, you know.
No, totally. Yeah, I totally respect that. I think it's safe and I think it's smart more than anything to keep that element of intrigue, because that's always been, I think, part of what makes the Whisper so cool is there's so much intrigue around it and just how the mission even came to be.
It also allows for like future stuff to be added to it.
Yep.
Like, if you just say right here, right now, there's absolutely nothing left, no one will ever look there again.
Yeah, and I can also say this definitively: I didn't have any involvement in the remake or the remaster, whatever you want to call it, the reprise, right? I had no input on that because I haven't worked there for 5 years. So whatever they've done with it, I have no clue. There are likely secrets that no one has discovered yet. So
wow, yeah.
Keep looking. I'll say this: when I first made it, the only way to get the catalyst was doing the heroic mode and getting all the chests, and you had to get all of the chests for 3 different burn modes across 3 weeks. So I designed the original one to not be complete, you know, air quotes complete, with the gun upgrades and all that for at least 3 weeks. So it's entirely possible they did even more, or expanded on that, added some more interesting things. Like there's all kinds of stuff. So
what's the deal with the Vex portal? Fox Jr. says, was it intended or something that just got cut out, or was it just decoration?
The secret Vex portal in the heroic mode in Whisper, I'm assuming he's talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, the one that leads to the Volta class.
That's literally why it's there. I loved that there was the portal in Vogue that we didn't really know where that went and like what it looked like. So the thing that got me the most excited is I was like, let's make the other end of it here.
Oh, wow.
And that's what we did. And that's why the Oracle puzzle's there. Like, those oracles were literally the oracles from Vogue. Yeah, the same intonation and everything.
Did you have a dream, or what was it? Because it sounds like to answer that question, it sounds like you came in with a really well thought out vision for and idea on how to execute on it. Like I said, was it a dream? Were you walking across the streets of Seattle one day and you looked up at a mountaintop and I don't know, saw some inspiration? What contributed to such a focused approach to this that didn't stray too far from that initial vision that you had?
My wife and I went to Kensington Rooftop Gardens and we just had some wine and we were just chilling and it was gorgeous, downtown, rooftop, crazy, botanic garden with fancy foods and wines and shit like that. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm gonna make this quest about the fallen captain on Titan, and that was the birth of Mithrax. Was
really?
Seriously, I was just vibing in London, and I was I was on vacation, and I just could not stop thinking about it, and I was taking notes and writing my little stories and stuff.
So Mithrax came to be through just this vision and idea you had hanging out Sunnyside in London, and then you came back to Seattle. At what point was this pitched, and how was that even? I can't imagine how shocked the directors of the game probably were. They're like, wait, Vince, I thought you were just working on the Whisper of the Worm. Now you're coming to us with some of the most important characters in the game now. Talk to us about how Mithrax came to be and how that pitch to the studio went. Was it something they bought into immediately? And how at that point, if you bring a new character into this, does he work into the really, really rich, deep layered lore of Destiny?
Okay, so this is crazy. Mithrax was made, with D2 launch. So this is 2016. And Whisper was made in 2019 or 2018.
Yeah.
So Mithrax came first, but Mithrax was a very minor character because he just existed in the quest on Titan called Enemy of My Enemy.
So we never got to see him. It was just part of the lore.
Oh, no, he was there.
Okay,
He's
that's right.
the captain that you can kill or save at the end of that mission.
Oh my god! Wow. Okay, yeah.
Fighting. That was Mithrax. That was his first appearance.
And was he called Mithrax at that point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Mithrax.
It's super weird.
Wow.
His name was Mithrax the Forsaken.
Yeah. And so I realized that moment in London, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And I was like, I can make him fighting the Hive actively, and the player gets the choice, right? So I came back and I had that pitch, got some help from the open world team. So this didn't even go to a directorial level. It just went to my open world lead. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. Do whatever you want. And I was like, okay, cool. But he was just like, I don't think you're going to be able to execute on this the way you think you can. It's going to be really tricky to, kind of mix those two things together. Friendly combatants are something that don't really work in shooters. Players don't get it. So there was just a lot of pushback there. And it was just a lot of skepticism. And I was like, okay, what if I did it to where there's just two endings? If you don't kill the captain, you get a different ending than if you do kill the captain. And he's like, well, what does that mean? And I was like, literally no difference. The same result occurs, but you just get a different VO line, right? And a different performance out of the combatant. And he was like, okay, that's fine. So that's how we got the special mission where you either save or kill the captain. Now, being the person who made 0 Hour, I was like, what would be really cool? Because I had the entire space built out for me. I built all of that stuff with Mithrax. I was like, I'm going to use Mithrax again because there's room here in this mission for me to do other things.
Gotcha.
So that was when I created the whole, lead in, quest line for Mithrax, and had him be the person who sends you on the mission into 0 hour, all that stuff.
Right.
So,
if you let him live, that's how you get. That's your reward. You got the 0 hour mission unlocked.
Exactly.
Wow.
So it became official canon that the Guardian, who is every player, lets Mithrax live. Mithrax is now a massively important character in the lore of Destiny. So it was just really cool to have that moment.
Content was huge around the Whisper of the Worm. Guides went crazy on YouTube. Was that something that you expected because it was such a mysterious mission, or were you kind of like, oh man, we're gonna see a lot of YouTube around the Whisper of the Worm?
Yeah, that was actually one of the pillars. So one of the first pillars was Destiny has big secrets, right? And then the second was we need to layer our secrets in a way so that you can't really find everything on the first go. And the purpose behind that wasn't to like be a dick to the players. It was because we know that there are players who are really, really, really into this game, and they're gonna just play the same mission 5,000 times and explore every corner and try to get out of environment and all that stuff. So we were like, let's put shit in there that rewards that behavior. And that will also lead to, our Sherpas, our content creators, Datto making videos, shit like that. Like,
so you guys thought about this when you made the mission?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Wow.
Very, very intentional to make it so that like content creators can make guides about it.
Obviously, you got paid to, as part of your job was making the mission. But after that, once it's made and out there in the universe, you taking the time to help and Sherpa through the Whisper of the Worm with so many, probably hundreds of people, I would imagine. I mean, again, it just really points to like the Whisper. That's why. That's what I wanted to do today. I wanted to find out why it's so special. Why is this the most iconic mission ever? It's because it all starts with people at the end of the day, and their love letters to whatever it is they love. And it sounds that's what I've discovered today. That's what my overarching takeaway is, that the Whisper was a love letter to all of your life experiences leading up to that moment, and then another 40% or so of it, just the environment and the era of today, which would have been 2017, 2018 for you back when you developed it.
I guess that's the secret, right? I played the game a ton. I loved the game. It was my favorite game, and I just put my passion into it. What's the meme? He just like me for real. Like that was it. I'm just like you for real. That's literally where it came from. So yeah.
But this is a great question again from Fox. I gotta shout out Fox Jr. They did a lot of homework because they brought some great questions. With data mining and leaks being so prevalent in today's gaming, how difficult was it to keep Whisper a secret for so long?
So the answer I have for that is an interesting one. Data mining was always a problem in Destiny. It was so depressingly a problem that there was a sort of prevailing attitude before the Whisper that putting secrets into Destiny was pointless. It was really disappointing. So I just want to throw this out there. Like, as a developer, I understand as a gamer, you want to know all the secrets. You want to know them as quickly as possible. It's so fucking exciting. You get really hype, and then you get to experience it for yourself. That feeling of instant gratification is actually not good. It makes it so that you lose a bit of the moment when you get it for real. So it's better to just hide it from yourself and then go experience it firsthand. As a developer, we take a lot of time and effort to build the secret, and we think about it. And when you have to consider, a part of building a secret is I have to figure out how to hide it from you, it makes it a lot less fun, and it makes it really hard. So yeah.
Well, dude, this has been incredible.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, really appreciate everybody. You guys are awesome. Thank you, everybody that came through.
Thank you so much for tuning in.